This is a video about Chebyshev's theorem and the empirical rule. So I'm using the data that we've already seen about the percent of people in the various counties that have a bachelor's degree or above, where we saw the sample mean was 36.35% and the sample standard deviation was 10.74%. So now let's take a look at what Chebyshev's rule is about. So the purpose of each of these is to help us use our standard deviation in order to help think about how spread out the data is. So let's suppose here is the mean, 36, and I'm going to round to 36.4. Now, we're trying to think about some of the counties that maybe are more agricultural communities where there's a lot of jobs that you can get without college degrees. And so there's going to be a wide variety all over the state. So we're trying to think about how spread out they are by using the sample standard deviation. So if we take this rule, this is going to tell us how to make an interval. So we're going to make an interval, and what we have here is we already know it's x bar is the mean and s is the standard deviation. What we don't have is k is a number of standard deviations. So what we're going to do is we're going to use standard deviation sort of like a yardstick. So I'm going to go this far and add one standard deviation to 36.4. So if I added one standard deviation to 36.4, I would be adding 10.7. I'm rounding to make it simpler. So if I add 10.7 to 36.4, I'm going to get 47.1. So this would be plus 1 times s. If I went out another standard deviation, I would add additional 10.7, and this would be plus 2 times s. So what are these values? This becomes 47.1, and this becomes 57.8. So over here, I know if I took 36.4 and added 2 times s, or I added 2 times 10.7, what I'm getting is 57.8. Now, the plus minus means I need to also go the other direction. So I need to go this way and subtract 10.7, which means subtracting 1s, and going another 10.7, which would mean subtracting off 2s, and each of those becomes 25.7 and 15.00. Okay, Chebyshev's rule says first we'll make this interval. So I just made an interval that goes from 15 up to 57.8. The second step is that it tells us how much of the data will land in the interval. So our interval is saying basically how many counties have percent bachelor's degrees of between 15%, that's my lower bound, and 57.8%. So that's my interval. What the theorem tells us is if we used 2 standard deviations, then if I plug in 2 to their formula, it's going to tell me 75%. This works out to 3/4. That works out to 75%. So our answer is that we know at least 75% of counties have between 15 and 57.8% with bachelor's degrees or above. So this theorem we can use. We make an interval, and then we figure out how much data will land in between the boundaries. This theorem we can use on any data set.